Hey there, everybody. Thank you for stopping by my channel, The Magical Solution. My name is Leilani. We are live here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We are not on TikTok tonight. Unfortunately, my main account on TikTok was banned. So I am on a new account called This Is How We Grow, but it has not reached 1,000 followers yet in order for me to go live. So if you want to help me out on TikTok so I can go live, just follow me at This Is How We Grow, or you can just search the Magical Solution. You should see both accounts still up. Anywho, we are back with our book, Medium's book by Allan Kardec. We are still on chapter 14, and we are just going to pick up where we left off, okay? So, chapter 14, the title of that chapter is the fun title. It is called Mediums, and the subcategories were physical effects of mediums, electrical persons, sensitive or impressionable mediums, hearing mediums, speaking mediums, seeing mediums, somnambulistic mediums, healing mediums, and pneumatographical mediums. So in our last video, we did the physical effects mediums, and now we are on electrical persons. So let's get to it. It would seem that it is, it would seem that to this mediumistic category belong those persons gifted with a certain charge of natural electricity, who are veritable human torpedoes, producing the effects of attraction and repulsion through simple contact. However, it would be erroneous to regard them as mediums, since true mediumship supposes the direct intervention of a spirit, and experiments have conclusively shown that in this particular case, electricity is the only agent behind the phenomenon. This strange faculty, which may almost always be regarded as an illness, can sometimes be linked to mediumship, as seen in the case of the spirit rapper of the Bergazenbird. That was the story that he told in the Spirits book. However, most of the time it is completely independent. According to what we have stated, the sole proof of spirit intervention is the intelligent character of the manifestations. Whenever this factor is absent, it is most logical to attribute the phenomenon to purely physical causes. The question still remains as to whether electrical persons might have a greater aptitude for becoming physical effects mediums, and we believe they would, but only experience will verify it. Now we're on sensitive and impressionable mediums. Now, this label is used to designate individuals capable of sensing the presence of spirit through a vague impression, a sort of general shudder of which they do not know the cause. This variety does not display any well defined characteristics, however. Mediums are necessarily impressionable, and thus impressionability is a quality that may be regarded as more general than special. It is a rudimentary faculty that is indispensable to the development of all others. It differs from purely physical and nervous impressionability, and which it should not be confused, for there are persons who are not neurologically sensitive, but who sense the presence of spirit to varying degrees, while others who are very susceptible cannot perceive them at all. This faculty develops with habit and can attain such stability that though the sensation received, the individual possessing it can recognize not only the good or evil nature of a nearby spirit, but also its individuality, as a blind person recognizes the approach of this or that individual by a sort of sensation. In relation to spirits, this type of medium is a true sensitive. A good spirit always produces a soft, pleasant impression, and an evil one, on the other hand, produces a painful, anxious, and unpleasant impression. It seems to bring an odor of impurity. Ooh. And now we're on to hearing mediums. Now, these mediums can hear the voice of spirits, as we stated when discussing pneumatophony. It is sometimes an internal voice that is heard deep down, while at other times it is an external voice as clear and distinct as if by a living person. Hearing mediums can thus converse with spirits, and when they acquire the ability to communicate with certain ones, they immediately recognize them by the tone of their voice. Persons who do not possess this faculty can also communicate with a spirit through a hearing medium who then acts as an interpreter. This faculty is very pleasing when such mediums hear only good spirits or those whom they call, but the same is not true when evil spirits hound them, making them hear every minute the most disagreeable and often most inappropriate of things. In such cases, it is necessary to get rid of them through the method we shall indicate in the chapter of obsession. We're now on to speaking mediums. Now, hearing mediums who only transmit what they hear are not actually speaking mediums, who most of the time do not hear anything at all. Which such mediums, with such mediums, spirits act upon their vocal organs just as they act upon the hands of writing mediums in order to communicate. A spirit utilizes the most flexible organ it can find in a particular medium. From one, it borrows the hand, from another, the vocal cords, and from a third, maybe the ears. In general, speaking mediums express themselves without any awareness of what they are saying, and they nearly always address subjects completely foreign to their customary ideas, outside their sphere of knowledge, and even beyond the reach of their intelligence. Although they are perfectly awake and normal during this process, they rarely remember what they have said. In other words, the medium's voice is an instrument that the spirit uses and through whom another person can converse with it, and is the case with a hearing medium. Nevertheless, the speaking medium's passivity is not always so complete. There are those who have an intuition about what they are saying at the time they utter the words. We shall focus on this variety when we address intuitive mediums. We're now on the seeing mediums. So, seeing mediums are those gifted with the ability to see spirits. There are those who enjoy this faculty in a normal state, who are perfectly awake and who retain a precise memory of what they have seen. Others display only in the somnambulistic state or one close to a somnambulism, which is basically dreaming. That's basically what he means. This faculty is rarely permanent, since it is almost always the result of a sudden and temporary crisis. In this category of seeing mediums, we may include all individuals gifted with second sight. This ability to see spirits while dreaming is also a kind of mediumship, but does not comprise seeing mediums per se. Like those with second sight, seeing mediums believe they see through their eyes, but in reality it is their soul who is seeing, which is why they can see either with their eyes closed or open. Thus, a blind person can see spirits as well as someone with normal sight. It would be interesting to perform a study on this issue to see if this faculty is more frequent among the blind. Spirits who have lived on the earth as blind individuals have told us that through their soul they had a perception of certain objects and that they were not immersed in total darkness after all. We must distinguish this. We must distinguish between accidental and spontaneous apparitions and the actual faculty for seeing spirits. The former most frequently occur at the time of death of loved or known individuals who have come to serve warning that they no longer belong to this world. There are numerous examples of such cases, not to mention those that occur as visions during sleep. At other times, they are relatives or friends who, although dead for quite some time, appear to warn us of danger, to provide counsel, or to ask a favor, which normally consists in carrying out some kind of service that they could not complete while they were alive, but which may also entail prayers. These apparitions comprise isolated events and always have an individual and personal character about them. Consequently, they do not comprise a faculty per se. The faculty itself consists in the ability, if not permanent, at least quite frequent, to see any spirits at all, even those who are completely unknown. This faculty is what defines the seeing medium, properly speaking. Among seeing mediums, there are those who see only evoked spirits, who can describe in the smallest detail of their gestures and facial expressions, the characteristics outlining of their face, their clothing, and even feelings that they express. There are others who possess the faculty in a more general sense, who see the entire surrounding spirit population going and coming, and we might say going about their daily business. On one particular evening, we were watching a performance at the opera called Oberon while seated beside an excellent seeing medium. A large number of seats were empty, but many were occupied by spirits who seemed to be watching the performance. Some were sitting close to various audience members and seemed to be listening in or on their conversations. On the stage, another scene was occurring. Behind the performers, several jovial spirits were having fun pantomiming them and grotesquely imitating their movements. More serious spirits, however, appeared to be inspiring the singers, supporting them by giving them more energy. One of these stayed next to one of the principal female singers. We judged its intentions as rather frivolous, and after the curtain closed, we evoked it. Upon responding to us, it severely reproved our rash judgment. I am not what you think. I am her guide, her protector spirit, and it is my responsibility to direct her. And after a few minutes of very serious conversation, it left us saying, well, goodbye. She is in her dressing room, and I must watch over her. We also evoked the spirit of Weber, the opera's composer, during the performance and asked him what he thought of it. Well, it isn't bad, he responded, but weak. The performers singing, but that's all. It lacks inspiration. Wait, he added. I shall try to infuse them with a little of the sacred fire. And we then saw him hovering over the stage above the singers. An emanation appeared to flow from him to them, enveloping them, and at that moment there was a visible resurgence of energy among them. Here is another event that proves the influence that spirits exert upon them humans without their knowing about it. So we were watching a theatrical performance, like the other one, but with another seeing medium. And while we were conversing with a spirit spectator, it told us, do you see those two ladies by themselves in the box in the first tier? Well, I'm going to make them leave the theater. He then entered the ladies' box and began to talk to them. They had been attentively watching the show when they suddenly looked at each other and seemed to consult with each other and then left and did not return. The spirit then gave us a merry gesture, meaning he had fulfilled his word, but we did not see him again to ask him for more explanation. In this manner, we have often been witnesses of the role that spirits play among our lives. We have observed them in many places where people gather, dances, concerts, sermons, funerals, weddings, etc., and everywhere where we have found them stimulating evil passions, inciting discord, exciting disputes, and rejoicing in their exploits. And others, on the contrary, fight this harmful influence. They are rarely listened to. The faculty for seeing spirits can undoubtedly be developed, but it is one of those whose development should proceed naturally without being artificially simulated in order to avoid being exposed to illusions of the imagination. When we possess the seed of a faculty, it will sprout by itself. As a rule, we should be content with the abilities that God has granted us and not seek the impossible. But if we want even more, we run the risk of losing what we already have. When we mentioned that the cases involving spontaneous apparitions frequently occur on page 107, we did not mean that they were very common. Those involving seeing mediums per se are even rarer, and we have many reasons for distrusting those who claim to have that faculty. One is prudent not to trust them without positive proof. We are not referring to those who feed the ridiculous illusion of globular spirits, which we described in page 108, but those who claim to see spirits in a more rational manner. Some persons could undoubtedly be sincere, though mistaken, but others may simulate the faculty out of vanity or for their ulterior motives. In judging such cases, we must pay special attention to the person's character, morality, and sincerity. However, it is especially in the details of the circumstances that we find the surest means of appraisal. There are circumstances that can leave no doubt, such as those involving exact descriptions of spirits whom the medium never had the opportunity to know when they were incarnated. And the following case belongs to this category. So, a widow lady, whose late husband frequently communicated with her, met a seeing medium one day who did not know her or her family. And the medium said to her, "I see a spirit beside you." "Oh," replied the lady, "that is probably my husband, who almost never leaves me." "No," responded the medium, "it is a lady of a certain age who has a strange hairdo and who is wearing a white headband." Because of this particularity and other descriptive details, the widow fully recognized her grandmother, whom she had not even been thinking about at that time. If the medium had only been faking the faculty, it would have been easier to follow the widow's suggestion, but instead of the husband whom she had been thinking about, he he saw a woman with a unique hairdo, of which he could have no idea. Moreover, this case proves that what the medium saw was not a reflection of any outside thought. So now we're on the subject of somnambulistic mediums. So these are mediums who dream. It's all about dreaming. Somnambulism can be considered a variety of mediumistic faculties, or rather, we should say that these two types of phenomenon are frequently found together. Somnambulists act under the influence of their own spirit. It is their own soul who, in moments of emancipation, sees, hears, and perceives beyond the limits of the senses. What they express proceeds from themselves. Their ideas are generally more correct than during their normal state, and their knowledge is broader since their soul is free. In other words, they live in anticipation of spirit life. Mediums, on the other hand, serve as instruments for an outside intelligence. They are passive, and what they express is not their own. In sum, somnambulists express their own thoughts, while mediums express the thoughts of others. However, the spirit who communicates through an ordinary medium might also do so through a somnambulist. Frequently, the same state of the soul's emancipation during somnambulism makes spirit communication easier. Many somnambulists see spirits perfectly well and describe them with the same precision as seeing mediums. They can converse with them and transmit their thoughts to us. Thus, what they say beyond the circle of their personal knowledge is almost always suggested to them by the spirits. The following is a notable example involving the simultaneous action of the somnambulist spirit and another spirit who reveals itself unequivocally. One of our four friends employed a somnambulist, a young boy of about 14 or 15 years of age and of quite low intelligence and extremely limited education. In the somnambulistic state, however, he showed extraordinary lucidity and great astuteness. He displayed his abilities particularly in the treatment of diseases, having performed numerous healings that were otherwise considered incurable. One day he was attending to a sick man. He described the illness with perfect precision. "That is not enough," he was told. "Now you must prescribe a remedy." "I can't," he responded. "My angel doctor isn't here." "Who is your angel doctor?" "The one who prescribes the remedies." Then you yourself don't see the remedies? Oh no. Didn't I just say my angel doctor prescribes them? Thus, in the case of, of this somnambulist, it was his own spirit who saw what the disease was and did not need any assistance, but the medical prescriptions were made by another spirit. If the latter was not present, the former could say nothing about them. By himself, he was only a somnambulist, assisted by whom he called his angel doctor. He was a somnambulist medium. The lucidity of the somnambulistic faculty is one that depends on the organism, and so it is independent of the elevation, advancement, and moral condition of the subject. And as a result, somnambulists may be very lucid but incapable of resolving certain issues if their spirit is and if their spirit is little advanced. Somnambulists who speak by themselves may therefore say good and bad, true or false things, and use greater or lesser delicacy and scrupulous in their procedures, depending on the degree of elevation or inferiority of their own spirit. In these cases, the assistance of another spirit may overcome their deficiencies. However, as is the case with mediums, somnambulists can also be assisted by lying, frivolous, and even evil spirits. This is where the somnambulist moral qualities have an especially large influence in order to attract good spirits. And he talks about this in the Spirits book. So now we are on the subject of healing mediums. We shall here only mention this variety of medium because the subject would require a great development than our present purpose will allow. Moreover, we have been informed that a doctor friend of ours has proposed to address the subject in a special work on intuitive medicine. We will only say this kind of mediumship consists mainly in the gift that some people have of healing by simple touch, by a look, or even a gesture, without resorting to any medication whatsoever. This will certainly be regarded simply as magnetism, and it is obvious that with magnetic fluid plays a large role. However, when the phenomenon is examined with due care, one may easily recognize the presence of something more. Common magnetization is a bona fide form of treatment requiring a methodical and regular sequence. In mediumistic healing, however, matters proceed in an entirely different manner. All magnetizers are able to heal to some degree if they know how to go about it correctly. But among healing mediums, this faculty is spontaneous and they sometimes possess it without ever having heard of the word magnetism. The intervention of a hidden power, the characteristic of mediumship, becomes obvious in certain circumstances, especially when we consider the most of individuals who qualify as a healing medium resort to prayer. And this prayer, in and of itself, becomes a true evocation. Following are the responses we received from the spirits on the subject of healing mediums. Here we go. So this is where he does the question and answer kind of thing. So, may we regard individuals gifted with magnetic power as forming a variety of mediumship? Yeah, you should have no question about that. So, mediums are intermediaries between spirits and humans, while magnetizers who draw upon their own forces do not appear to serve as intermediaries for any foreign power. That is an erroneous idea. The magnetic force belongs to the individual, but is augmented with the help of the spirits to whom they appeal for it. For example, if you use magnetism to heal and you evoke a good spirit who takes an interest in both you and the sick person, it augments your own forces and willpower by directing your fluids and giving them the necessary qualities. Okay, nonetheless, there are excellent magnetizers who do not believe in spirit. So, do you think that spirits only act upon those who believe in them? Those who magnetize for good purposes are aided by good spirits. All those with moral aspirations call to them without realizing it, in the same way that through the desire for evil and bad intentions, others call to evil ones. So, would magnetizers who believe in the intervention of spirits act more effectively? Well, they could do things that would be regarded as miracles. Do some individuals actually have the gift of being able to heal by simple touch without employing magnetic passes? Certainly. Haven't you seen several examples? Well, do such cases involve magnetic action or only the influence of spirits? Both. Such individuals are bona fide mediums since they act under the influence of spirits. But that does not mean that they are what you understand to be healing mediums, for example. So, is the power transmittable? Not the power itself, but rather the understanding of what is needed to exert it when one possesses it. There are those who would not even suspect that they had this power if they did not think that it had been transmitted to them. So, can healing be affected through prayer alone? Yes. Sometimes God allows this. However, it is sometimes for sick persons' own good to continue to suffer, and they then think their prayers have not been heard. Are certain prayer formulas more effective than others for healing? Only superstition could attribute virtue to certain words, and only ignorant or deceitful spirits could entertain such an idea by prescribing formulas. However, for persons who are little enlightened and incapable of understanding purely spiritual matters, the use of a formula might contribute to deepening their confidence. In such a case, it is not the formula that is effective, but rather the faith that has been augmented by the belief attached to the use of the formula. We are now on the topic of pneumatographical mediums. Now, this designation applies to mediums who have an aptitude for obtaining direct writing, a gift that is not given to all writing mediums. This faculty has remained quite rare. It can probably be developed through practice, but as we have stated, its practical usefulness is limited to its being obvious proof of the intervention of a concealed power in the manifestations. Only experience can tell if someone possesses it. Thus, one may experiment with it just as one may inquire of a protector spirit through other forms of communication. Depending on the greater or lesser power of the medium, simple traces and symbols and letters and words and sentences and even entire pages may be obtained. All that is usually required is to place a sheet of folded paper somewhere in a place designated by the spirit for 10 to 15 minutes or a bit longer. Prayer and meditation are essential. Thus, we consider it impossible for it to work in non serious settings or where persons are not animated with sentiments of affinity and benevolence. We will address writing mediums in a particular chapter that will follow. Okay, we are now on chapter 15, and this one is on writing or psychographic mediums. So the subcategories for this chapter is mechanical mediums, intuitive mediums, semi-mechanical mediums, inspired mediums, and uh, prescient mediums, prescient mediums. Okay, so here we go. Of all the forms of communication, manual writing is the simplest, the most convenient, and especially the most complete. All efforts should be made to develop it, for it enables relationships to be established with spirits that are as lasting and regular as those we maintain amongst ourselves. We stress its use so highly because it is the method through which spirits best reveal their nature and the degree of their elevation or lowliness. Through the ease with which they express themselves in this way, they provide us with knowledge of their innermost thoughts, enabling us to evaluate them and determine their true worth. Moreover, for the medium, this faculty is the most susceptible of being developed with practice. Mechanical medium. Now, if we examine certain effects that manifest in the movements of a table, a basket, a planchette that writes, we will have no doubt that a spirit is exerting a direct action upon these objects. The basket sometimes moves about so violently that it jumps from one medium's hand. At other times, it will move towards certain individuals in the circle in order to strike them. At other times, its movements display affection. The same occurs when a pencil is placed in the medium's hand. Often it will fly out of their hand, or the hand of the basket may move convulsively and angrily, tapping the tabletop, all while the medium is perfectly calm but surprised at not being able to control the movements. We would state, in passing, that such effects always denote the presence of less evolved spirits. High order spirits are almost always calm and full of dignity and benevolence. If they are not listened to with proper respect, they withdraw and others take their place. Thus, a spirit can express its thought directly, whether by moving an object for which the medium's hand only acts as support or by acting directly upon the hand. When a spirit acts directly upon the medium's hand, it impels it completely independently of the medium's will. The hand writes without stopping and despite the medium's will for as long as the spirit has something to say, and will then stop when it has finished. What categorizes this phenomenon in this instance is that the medium is completely unaware of what he or she is writing. This absolute unawareness categorizes those whom we call passive or mechanical mediums, and this faculty is all the more valuable since it does not leave the slightest doubt that the independent thought of the entity doing the writing. So we're now on intuitive mediums. The transmission of a spirit's thought may also occur by means of the medium's own spirit, or rather, his or her soul, since we use that term for the spirit while incarnated. In this case, the communicating spirit does not act directly upon the hand in order to make it right, for it neither holds it nor guides it, but acts upon the soul, with which it identifies itself. Then, under this impulsion, the medium's soul guides the hand, which in turn guides the pencil. Here we must note an important fact. The communicating spirit does not replace the medium's soul because it could not dislodge it from the body. Rather, it dominates it apart from the medium's will and impresses its own will on it. Consequently, the soul's role is not completely passive. It receives the spirit through the transmits and transmits it. In this situation, the medium is conscious, and what is being written, although it is not a reflection of his or her own thoughts, this type of person is called an intuitive medium. One might say that there is nothing in this method that proves that it is another spirit instead of the medium's own spirit who is doing the writing. In fact, the distinction is sometimes quite difficult to make. But this may not be important in that one can recognize the spirit suggested thoughts by the fact that the medium has never had such thoughts, him or herself. They are suggested while they are being written down and often are even contrary to the ideas that the medium previously had regarding the subject. Moreover, they may be well beyond the knowledge and capabilities of the medium. The role of the mechanical medium is that of like a machine, whereas intuitive mediums act as interpreters. In order to transmit thoughts, the latter must comprehend them and, in a sense, assimilate them in order to faithfully translate them. But the thoughts are not their own. They do nothing more than pass through their brain. This is precisely the role of the intuitive medium. Now we're on semi-mechanical mediums. So in the case of purely mechanical mediums, the movement of the hand is independent of their will, while with intuitive mediums, the movement is voluntary and facultative. Semi-mechanical mediums, on the other hand, are a blend of both. That is, they feel their hand being moved without their willing it to do so, but at the same time, they are aware of what is being written while the words are being formed. With the first, the medium's thought appears after the writing. With the second, before the writing. And with the third, while the writing is in process. So semi mechanical mediums are the most numerous. We're now on the subject of inspired mediums. All those who either in a normal or ecstatic state receive mental communications that are foreign to their own preconceived ideas may be considered an inspired medium. They may be regarded as an intuitive variety, but with the difference that their intervention of the concealed power is much less detectable. For with an inspired medium, it is more difficult to distinguish between the inspired thought itself and the medium's own thought. What categorizes the former is especially its spontaneity. We may receive information from spirits who influence us either for good or evil, but it is mainly the help of those who want what is good for us, whose counsels we most often fail to follow. This applies to all circumstances of our life and the decisions we must make. In this sense, we could say that all are mediums, since there are none who do not have their protector and familiar spirits, who do everything that they can to transmit good thoughts to their wards. If everyone were convinced of this truth, they would they would more frequently draw upon the inspiration of their guardian angels in moments when they do not know what to say or what to do. Let us fervently and with confidence evoke our protector spirit in times of need, and we will more assiduously wander at the ideas that arise as if by magic, whether for help in making a decision or in something to be done. If no idea arises immediately, then all we must do is wait. The proof that we are dealing with a suggested idea is precisely in that if it were our own, it would always have been at our disposal, and there would have been no reason for it not to have manifested at our beck and call. Those who are not blind only need to open their eyes whenever they want to see. In the same way, those who have their own ideas always have them at their disposal. But if they do not surface when they want them, it is because they must go in search of them outside of themselves. In this category, we may also include persons who, without being gifted with exceptional intelligence and without leaving their normal state, have flashes of intellectual lucidity that endows them with surprising ease of conception and, and elocution, and in certain cases, a presentiment about the future. At such times, which we rightly call inspirational, ideas abound and follow upon one another in an involuntarily and almost feverish impulse. It seems like a higher intelligence has come to aid and that our spirit has been freed of a great burden. All geniuses, artists, scholars, lit- literati are undoubtedly advanced spirits with the ability to comprehend and conceive of great things. And it is precisely because spirits judge them as possessing such abilities that, whenever they want to accomplish certain deeds, they suggest the necessary ideas to them. It is thus that, in most instances, they are mediums without even realizing it. And nevertheless, they have a vague intuition of being assisted. For those who appeal for inspiration actually make an evocation. If they expected not to be heard, Why would they often exclaim, "My guardian angel, help me"? The following responses confirm this assertion. So, what is the primary cause of inspiration? Mental communication from a spirit. So, is inspiration only meant for great revelations? No, it is almost always meant for the most common life circumstances. For example, you want to go somewhere and a secret voice tells you not to because you would be met with danger, or this voice suggests that you do something that you had not thought of. This is inspiration. There are very few people who have not been inspired on many occasions. In moments of inspiration, can writers and painters or musicians, for example, be regarded as mediums? Yes, because in such moments their soul is freer and more separate from matter, and thus it recovers part of its faculties as a spirit and more easily receives communications from other spirits who inspire it. We're now on the subject of prescient mediums. A presentiment is a vague intuition about the future events. Certain individuals possess this faculty to different degrees of development. It may be regarded as a type of second sight that enables them to see the consequences of the present and the natural chain of events. But they are also often the result of concealed communications, and it is particularly in these instances that the individuals so gifted may be called prescient mediums, who comprise of a variety of inspired mediums. Let's see how many minutes we have left. 15 minutes. Let me see how big this chapter is. Because we're now on a new chapter, and I just want to make sure I have time. Nope, this chapter is going to be really big. Okay, so we are now on chapter 16, and chapter 16 is called Special Mediums. The subcategories are special aptitudes of mediums, synoptic table of the different varieties, and varieties of writing mediums. He's really obsessed with writing mediums. Don't ask me why. Um, so we will start that chapter the next round. Okay. In the meantime, do you guys have any questions um, that you need answered or want me to clarify what we just read? And I would be more than happy to do so. Nothing? Okay. So then, if that's the case, I will meet you guys here, same time, same place, next week, which is let me see, Thursday the 20th. Okay, guys, have a wonderful night. This is how we grow.